House Democrats delayed another vote Friday on President Biden's $1.75 trillion Build Back Better plan. A group of moderate lawmakers are requesting a cost analysis of the plan from the Congressional Budget Office. However, that report could take weeks to complete. In the meantime, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi announced that there will be a final vote Friday on the $1 trillion infrastructure bill. But some progressive Democrats are saying that they do not plan to vote for one piece of legislation without the other. To help us understand all the things that are happening right now in Washington, I want to bring in CBS News Chief Foreign Affairs Correspondent and Face the Nation moderator, Margaret Brennan. Margaret, what is going on there? Why did House Speaker Pelosi decide to vote on the infrastructure bill first and delay the social spending bill in opposition to what we've heard so often from the progressive members of the Democratic Party?
Well, big picture is that Democrats need a win, particularly in a week where they were bruised a bit at the ballot box. With these Tuesday elections, particularly in the state of Virginia, closely watched, blue state went red. Democrats would like to be able to deliver the president, or at least Democratic leadership would like to deliver to the president his agenda because it's been drawn out over these past few weeks. But the war is still raging between moderates and progressives within the Democratic Party. And tonight, even just minute by minute, we're getting different reports of what the next moves are. It is a standoff at the moment. You mentioned the desire from some moderates, 5 of them in particular, to get a final tally or an estimate, I should say, from the Congressional Budget Office, a price tag of what this spending plan that includes some paid leave, about 4 weeks. It includes things like pre-K that would be tuition free. It's bigger, though, than what the president had announced last week. So that's why moderates want a price tag. Progressives are saying that they want to be able to move things in tandem. As you said, that was their understanding, and they don't want to give up their leverage. So now they're threatening essentially to blow up the bipartisan infrastructure bill, the $1.2 trillion for roads and bridges, and saying if you force us to vote tonight, we're going to vote it down, and that would certainly be embarrassing. So there is a lot of arm twisting happening in back rooms on Capitol Hill tonight for Democrats to not embarrass the president. But the long-term strategy may simply be to delay. We're going to press one of the president's top advisors about this, Cedric Richmond, when he joins us on Sunday.
And Margaret, this report from the Congressional Budget Office that's being asked for by this group of moderate Democrats, is it expected? Is it more of a political move? Is it political theater? Or might it change votes?
Well, the Congressional Budget Office, the CBO, does this kind of scoring. They are bipartisan. This is just something they do with all these big bills, right? So this isn't like a special request, but to say we don't want to vote until we see it is a political calculation for these 5 moderate Democrats, or as their progressive colleagues are labeling them, conservative Democrats. They're using that as kind of a attack mode there. But the reason the moderates are doing it is because they're coming from districts that aren't super liberal, that are perhaps purple, meaning a mix of Democrats and Republicans, people who do want to see their representative hit the pause button and look at least like they're being responsible so that they can respond to Republican attacks when they are accused of adding to the deficit. So that is the political calculation. It is not incredibly unreasonable to ask for the CBO score, but it also is the case that things have been voted on in the past without that score being delivered.
Finally, Margaret, you spoke with the former U.S. Special Envoy for Haiti, Daniel Foote. He made a lot of headlines when he resigned in September in response to the Biden administration's Haiti policy and the way that the administration was handling the influx of Haitian migrants to the U.S. I'm going to play for our viewers a little bit of what he had to say.
The Haitian state cannot take care of the people that it currently has, and to put thousands or tens of thousands of additional desperate people into that situation is only going to fuel a terrible situation.
But the expulsion of migrants who cross the border illegally under Title 42, that has been anyone who walks across. regardless of country of origin.
Correct.
Why should Haiti be different than Honduras or Nicaragua or El Salvador, where people also say they face really dire circumstances if they go back home?
I don't know if it's a Haiti versus Honduras versus Guatemala issue as much as it's an issue of international law and convention. Asylum seekers are guaranteed the right to request asylum.
You object to the policy across the board.
I do. I mean, I have spent in my career times pleading, urging other countries not to refoul asylum seekers, and now the United States is doing it ourselves, and I think the public health reasoning is pretty flimsy, to be honest with you.
Title 42 obviously controversial when it was administered first by the Trump administration, and now we heard Special Envoy Foote call it an issue of international law and convention. Margaret, explain for our viewers a little bit more about what he means by that and why he thinks we're not living up to our international standards, our American values.
Well, what you heard the envoy talking about there, and keep in mind, he is a diplomat who has served in past administrations, and he quit because he thinks, as he said there, that the Haiti policy from the Biden administration is deeply flawed, inhumane. He's not the only State Department official who quit. In fact, we saw Harold Koh, another top official, resign, saying that this migration policy is just wrong in his view. What they are citing is what international law stipulates and what Human Rights Watch has called a violation. The United States, citing the CDC and the public health emergency, has been expelling, without the guarantee of an asylum hearing, all of these migrants back to their country of origin. The Trump administration did it. The Biden administration has kept that policy. And so you had over 7,000 Haitians who were desperate, sent back into a situation with a little bit of money in their pocket, but into a arena, really, that he called, Ambassador Foote called, virtually a war zone. So that's what he's saying there, is that the United States is endangering the people it is expelling by sending them back to a place like Port-au-Prince, Haiti. This isn't dissimilar from any of the other countries I talked about there. That is the argument for those coming from El Salvador. That is the argument from others coming from countries where the situation was so desperate that they fled by foot up through into the United States. But for Haiti, because it's virtually a failed state at this point, because gangs are gaining control of the country, it is just an extreme example. And so Ambassador Foote is giving voice there to what many, frankly, inside the Biden administration are upset with. There is strong disagreement among members of the administration about their own policy, and yet the CDC regulation is in place along that land border between the United States and Mexico. And so we're going to continue to talk about this. It's a political problem for the Biden administration. Mm-hmm. Progressive Democrats really don't like this. And that Haiti example, particularly those images of Haitians being rounded up by Border Patrol agents on horseback, caused a political backlash, but it didn't change anything.
And it really goes to those bigger philosophical issues that are being debated within the Democratic Party. Look forward to hearing you digging into it, Margaret. Thank you.
Thank you.
And a reminder, Face the Nation streams every Sunday at 10:30 a.m. Eastern on CBS, and later at 1 p.m. and 4 p.m. right here on CBSN.